Nathan Hale had built an empire, but a snowstorm had brought him back to the place he once escaped. A cancelled flight, a snowstorm over Chicago, and a friend's last-minute fundraiser in his old hometown led him there. It was a quiet December morning in Fairview, and the town still looked like something out of a postcard. White picket fences, snow on the trees, hand-painted shop signs. It hadn't changed much since he left 30 years ago, but Nathan had now in his 40s. Nathan was the founder of Heltech, a smart home company valued at over $1.2 billion. He owned 5 properties, 3 sports cars, and a penthouse in Manhattan he hadn't stayed in for more than a week that year. Money was everywhere, but meaning was hard to find. He didn't talk to his father anymore. His mother passed 2 years ago. No siblings, no kids, friends. Yes, but not the kind who really knew you. Nathan had come to drop off a check at Fairview Elementary, the school where he'd once sat in the back of Mrs. Talbot's class dreaming of escape. He was donating $250,000 for new computers, a media center, and music supplies. $250,000. He told his assistant to make it anonymous. No photos, no press, just a quiet gesture. He pulled into the small parking lot around 11 a.m. The school's front lawn was covered in snow, with tiny footprints stamped across it like constellations. Lights blinked on the windows. Paper snowflakes hung from every door. Inside it was warm and chaotic. The secretary led him to the principal's office, while holiday music played faintly down the hallway. "Principal Bennett will be with you in just a moment," she said with a smile. Nathan nodded, took a seat, and waited. Kids streamed past in noisy waves, heading to lunch. It was then, while the hallway buzzed with chatter, that he overheard it. "I didn't get anything for Christmas, not even a candy cane," a small voice said. He turned slightly. 2 girls walked slowly past the office door, one of them dragging a worn red backpack. The voice came from the smaller one. She couldn't have been more than 6. "Maybe you'll get something after Christmas," the other girl said. The small one shook her head. "My mom said Santa ran out of money this year. She cried last night." Nathan's chest tightened. He stood up and stepped into the hallway. The girls had already turned the corner. The secretary glanced up at him. "Is everything all right?" He nodded vaguely. "I just needed to stretch," but his mind had already gone elsewhere. Back 35 years, Nathan's childhood hadn't been rich. His father worked at the auto shop on Main, and his mother stitched upholstery from home. They lived in a 2-bedroom house with a leaky roof and a heating system that groaned like an old man. Christmases were simple. Oranges, socks, maybe a toy car if money allowed. He remembered one year when the tree was just a cardboard cutout taped to the wall. His mum had drawn ornaments with crayons. "You have to imagine them sparkling," she said with a wink. Nathan imagined hard, but he never forgot the emptiness he felt waking up that morning and pretending not to care that there were no gifts. Now, at the edge of middle age, hearing that little girl say the words, "Santa ran out of money," it punched straight through his past. He left the check with the secretary and walked out, but he didn't go far. That afternoon, he sat in his rental car parked near the back of the school, watching recess from a distance. Kids ran through the snow, chasing each other, throwing soft powder in the air. Nathan scanned for the girl. He saw her sitting alone on a bench, boots swinging slightly above the ground. Her coat was thin, her mittens mismatched. Her backpack looked like it had been stitched back together. She wasn't crying, but her stillness said more than tears could. Nathan didn't know her name, but something about her posture, the quiet patience, the too-old sadness on her too-young face reminded him of someone he hadn't thought about in a long time. Himself. He came back the next day. This time he asked to speak with the principal. Principal Bennett, a kind woman with crow's feet and a calm presence, agreed to meet him again. "I actually have a strange request," Nathan said, sitting across from her. "Yesterday, I overheard a student talking about not getting anything for Christmas." She tilted her head. "I don't know her name," Nathan added quickly. "Small girl. Brown hair. Thin. She was wearing a red backpack with one strap torn. I saw her again at recess, sitting alone. I was wondering if you knew who she might be." Bennett leaned back slightly. "You're not the first person who's noticed her," she said softly. "That's Harper. 1st grade. Sweet kid. Smart. But it's been a tough year. Her mom's working 2 jobs. Dad's out of the picture. They're living in a motel right now. Christmas is probably the last thing on her mom's mind." Nathan felt the words settle like stones in his chest. "I want to help," he said. "We appreciate your donation." "No," Nathan cut in. "I mean I want to help her, personally, quietly." "Is that even allowed?" Principal Bennett studied him. "We have to be careful with student privacy. But let me talk to her mother. Maybe there's something we can arrange." That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He sat in the guest room of a hotel suite, staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed with emails from partners, investors, PR teams, but none of it mattered. He thought of Harper on that bench, alone, cold, forgotten, and he remembered his mother drawing fake ornaments on a cardboard tree. He got up, opened his laptop, and started writing a list. Nathan waited outside the school. The next morning, sipping burnt coffee from a corner gas station and watching his breath cloud the windshield. He wasn't sure what he was doing there, only that he couldn't stop thinking about Harper. Around 8:15, Principal Bennett said yes. Nathan's heart jumped. Her mum. She was cautious at first, understandably, but I explained who you were partially, and that you were a former student. She agreed to meet you this afternoon, after school. Nathan exhaled slowly. "Thank you. Just be kind. She's been through a lot." Her name was Jenna Walker. She was 32, worked at a grocery store bakery during the day, and cleaned offices at night. Harper was her only child. Her husband had walked out 2 years ago, and she hadn't heard from him since. They lived in a budget motel on the highway, room 204, paid week-2-week. Principal Bennett offered her the staff lounge for the meeting. It had folding chairs, a coffee pot, and a microwave that barely worked. Nathan arrived early. Jenna arrived exactly on time, Harper clinging to her side. "Mr. Hale," she said cautiously. "I'm Jenna." Nathan stood, extended his hand. "Nathan, please." Jenna shook it, but her eyes were sharp, protective. "So you wanted to talk to us?" "I did. Thank you for coming. I overheard Harper say something the other day about Christmas. It stayed with me." Jenna looked down. It's been a hard season." Harper looked between them silently, then climbed into a chair with her backpack on her lap. "I grew up here too," Nathan said. "Actually went to this school. We didn't have much. Some years, Christmas was barely Christmas. My mum made it special. But I remember how it felt to wake up with nothing under the tree." Harper looked up now, watching him carefully. "So I was wondering," Nathan continued gently, "if you'd let me give her a gift this year. Just one. Nothing crazy. Just something to let her know she's not invisible." Jenna's eyes welled instantly. She looked down at her lap, shaking her head softly. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just give me permission. I don't want her to think we're a charity case." Nathan nodded. "She won't. She thinks she's magic." Silence. Harper spoke up. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," Nathan said. She stared at him. "Do you know Santa Claus?" Nathan smiled. "We talk sometimes." Jenna laughed once, a short breathy sound, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. "I won't say no," she whispered. Nathan left the meeting and went straight to town. He walked past chain toy stores and discount aisles filled with plastic junk. None of it felt right. He stopped at a shop near the edge of Main Street called Maple and Thread. Handcrafted toys, hand-stitched dolls, wooden puzzles, and knitted scarves. It smelled like cedar and cinnamon. He found a doll with long brown yarn hair, wearing a red knit scarf and green boots. Her name tag said Clara. Her smile was simple, warm. Nathan brought it to the counter. "I'd like to have a name stitched into her scarf," he said. "Of course," the owner replied. "What's the name?" "Harper. And would you like a note to go with it?" Nathan paused, then nodded. "Yes, just a little one," he wrote. "For someone very special. From someone who remembers what it's like to wait and wonder. Merry Christmas, Harper." That night, he drove to the motel. The hallway to room 204 smelled like takeout and bleach. He knocked gently. Jenna opened the door, wearing a hoodie and fatigue in her eyes. "She's inside, watching cartoons." Nathan held out the box. "Tell her it was Santa's assistant." Jenna took it carefully. "I wish I could repay you." "You already did." Nathan turned to go. "Wait," Jenna said. Would you want to come back sometime? I mean, if you're ever in town again." She really liked you. Nathan blinked. "I'd like that." The next day was the school's holiday assembly. Harper sat in the third row of the gym with her class. She wore a slightly too big red sweater and clutched the doll in her lap like it was a rare treasure. At the front of the room, kids sang carols off-key. A teacher played piano. Parents clapped and took shaky videos. Harper didn't sing. She just smiled. She didn't take her eyes off Clara. When Nathan quietly entered the back of the gym to watch, no one noticed him, except her. She turned, saw him, and waved. A tiny, glowing, two-handed wave that made something in Nathan's chest catch fire. The next week, he extended his stay in town. He started driving around, seeing places he hadn't visited in decades. The old library, the baseball field, the bus stop where he waited in the snow as a kid. And he had an idea. What if he didn't just help one girl? What if he gave every child at Fairview Elementary a gift? Not because they were poor, not because they needed charity, but because he remembered what it was like to feel invisible. He called, "Principal Bennett, I want to do something," he said. "Something big." Quietly. How big? Every child, every teacher, every staff member, a personal gift, hand-wrapped, something that says, "You matter, someone sees you." Bennett was quiet for a moment. "Do you know how many students we have?" 314, Nathan said. "I checked. And staff, 42. And you want to give them all something. You realize school's out in 5 days." "I know." She let out a long breath. "All right, let's talk." Nathan booked out an unused office downtown and brought in a dozen volunteers, some from his company, some local hires to help manage the logistics. He split the students by age group. Custom gift ideas, age-appropriate toys, books, games, art kits, personal messages included. He didn't use his company name, no brand logo, no press. Every card was signed, from someone who remembers. By the end of the third day, the room looked like Santa's warehouse. Boxes stacked to the ceiling, wrapping paper everywhere, a mess of ribbon and tape and tags. On day 4, he personally wrote a message for each teacher, every custodian, every aide, every lunch server. And when he got to Harper's teacher Ms. Durham, he added something extra, a letter of gratitude, and a voucher for a fully paid week at a mountain cabin retreat. No, one was forgotten. Not this time. On the final day before winter break, Nathan stood in the back of the gym as the school held its farewell assembly. Principal Bennett took the mic. "There's something special waiting for each of you today," she said. "But before we get to that, I want to tell you something. You are seen, you are remembered, and you matter." She didn't say Nathan's name, but as the gifts were handed out, as teachers gasped and students shrieked with joy, he saw the ripples spreading across the room, the realization that someone, somewhere, cared. Harper sat in the front row, her arms wrapped around Clara and a new sketch pad. On the first page, she had drawn a stick figure in a big coat, next to a little girl with stars around her head. Nathan didn't stay for the end. He slipped out the side door, coat flapping in the wind, and walked down the snowy street without looking back. For the first time in a long, long time, he didn't feel alone. Nathan walked 5 blocks before realizing he didn't know where he was going. The cold nipped at his ears, but he didn't care. Something inside him was warmer than any coat could provide. The morning had been magic. Children ripping paper, squealing over new books or art supplies, teachers tearing up at handwritten notes. Even the janitor, Mr. Ellis, blinked back tears when he opened a new pair of insulated gloves and a signed thank you card. But Nathan hadn't stayed. He hadn't needed applause. He just wanted to feel something again. He got in his car and drove. To the edge of town, fields stretched in every direction, dusted with snow. He parked, stepped out, and stood under the wide winter sky, alone. And that's when it hit him. This wasn't over. He had thought it would be a one-time gesture, a silent redemption, but something inside said no. This was just the beginning. Word spread fast, not because of a press release, there wasn't one, but because 314 students had gone home that day, glowing like candles, clutching gifts they never expected, with stories they couldn't stop telling. By evening, local Facebook groups were full of photos, a boy holding a custom puzzle, a girl drawing in a new sketchbook, a group of kids trading friendship bracelets that had appeared like magic in their cubbies. Parents posted thank you messages to the mystery angel or secret Santa. The local paper ran a small story titled, "Holiday Miracle at Fairview Elementary. Donor remains anonymous." Nathan read it online at 2 a.m. in bed, unable to sleep. He smiled at the headline. Then he read the comments. One stood out. "It's beautiful, but I wish someone cared this much the rest of the year, not just at Christmas." Nathan stared at that sentence for a long time, and then he got up and turned his light back on. He called Principal Bennett again the next day. "This is going to sound insane," he said, "but I have an idea." "Oh no," she said. "Those words never end well. I'm serious. What if this wasn't a one-time thing? What if we created something permanent?" "Like what?" "A foundation, a program. Something that supports kids at this school all year long. Meals, supplies, mentorship, field trips. Not charity, dignity. I want to build it here, starting with Fairview." Principal Bennett went quiet. Then she said, "Can we meet tomorrow?" They met in her office with 2 assistant principals and the school counselor. Nathan laid it out. He would fund the program privately. No branding, no strings, just quiet, consistent support aimed at giving kids the opportunities he never had. He'd call it the Harper Project. Bennett blinked. After, he nodded. "She reminded me what it feels like to be small in a world that doesn't notice you." The school counselor, Ms. Reeves, leaned forward. "What's the catch?" "There isn't one. You don't want your name on the building." "No. A press conference article. I want these kids to think the world just decided to give them a shot." Reeves leaned back, arms crossed. "You know, that sounds impossible." Nathan smiled. "Only if we do it the usual way." Within 2 weeks, the Harper Project was real. It started small. Each student received a new backpack after break, filled with school supplies that were actually fun to use. Every classroom got flexible funds for things teachers usually paid for themselves: books, project materials, healthy snacks, lunch debt. Erased. After-school program. Expanded. A tutoring fund for kids who needed extra help. Launched. None of it was flashy, but every bit of it mattered. And still, no one knew who was behind it. One person, however, was starting to wonder. A local reporter named Lila Tran had written the original Holiday Miracle article. She hadn't thought much of it at the time, just another feel-good piece during the holiday lull. But when the Harper Project was announced and no one stepped forward, she got curious. She called the school. Principal Bennett declined to comment. She reached out to parents. No one knew anything. She filed a records request for donations made to the school. It came back with only one note: private donor, name withheld by request. That made her even more suspicious. Why would someone do so much and want no credit? Unless they had a reason. Meanwhile, Nathan's visits with Harper became more frequent. Sometimes he'd stop by after school with cookies or colored pencils. Other times they'd meet at the park and talk about her drawings. She started calling him Mr. N. He didn't mind. One afternoon in February, she showed him a picture she'd drawn. A tall man in a coat next to a small girl, standing under a sky full of stars. "I drew you happy," she said. "I am happy," he replied. She looked at him. "You weren't before," though Nathan was silent, then nodded. "No, I wasn't." But joy wasn't the only thing growing, so was pressure. Nathan's board of directors began asking why he was spending more time in Fairview than at the New York office. Shareholders wanted him back. A tech blog ran a headline: "Heltech CEO goes ghost. What's going on with Nathan Hale?" And then, one Tuesday morning in March, he opened his email and saw it. Subject: urgent incoming press inquiry. Attached was a draft article from Lila Tran at the Fairview Times, with a question at the bottom: "Can you confirm that Nathan Halley is the anonymous donor behind the Harper Project and the December gift drop at Fairview Elementary?" His heart stopped. Nathan stared at the screen. "Can you confirm that Nathan Hale is the anonymous donor behind the Harper Project and the December gift drop at Fairview Elementary?" His first instinct was to deny it. Quiet giving was sacred. To him, he didn't want to be praised for doing what should be normal. He certainly didn't want headlines twisting the story into some tech billionaire reputation repair stunt. But it was out now. Someone had dug too deep. He leaned back in his chair. Outside the motel window, the world went on. Delivery trucks, wet sidewalks, a dog barking across the street. He opened a blank document. To Lila, Tran. Subject: RE. Your inquiry is, it's true. I don't want a feature. I don't want attention. But if you tell this story, please focus on Harper, not me. Tell them why it started, not who started it. That's what matters. He hit send and exhaled. The article dropped 3 days later. Front page of the Fairview Times. The man behind the MRACLL Tech CEO, Nathan Hale, secretly funds Fairview School. Inspired by one girl's heartbreaking Christmas, the piece was respectful. Well written. Lila didn't sensationalize it. She highlighted Harper's story, the quiet growth of the Harper Project, the local teachers' testimonials. It went viral overnight. National outlets picked it up. Within 72 hours, Nathan was being contacted by everyone from CNN to Ellen's producers to local business owners wanting to get involved. He ignored most of it, but some he couldn't. A message came from a man named Dev Patel, who ran a literacy non-profit out of Chicago. I read about Harper. I grew up that kid. What you're doing, it's the right fight. If you ever want to talk impact, let's talk. Another came from a teacher in Michigan. Our school is crumbling, not just the walls, the hope. Your story gave me something I forgot I needed, proof that someone still gives a damn. And another, I just started crying. I was Harper once. I'm 34 now, with a daughter. Thank you for remembering kids like us. Nathan read every message, and somewhere, in the quiet, he felt something click. Maybe this was bigger than Fairview. Maybe Harper's voice, that small sentence about Santa running out of money, had become something more than either of them imagined. The school hosted a community night 2 weeks later, a thank you event, not for press, but to let parents and staff see what had been built. Nathan didn't want to go. He didn't want to be clapped for, but Harper insisted. You have to come, she said. You're the first grown-up I ever met who listened like a kid. He didn't know exactly what she meant, but he went. The gym was packed. There were posters, drawn by students lining the walls, rainbows, hearts, messages like thank you mystery, Santa, and now I like school. Parents came up to him with teary eyes, not knowing what to say. One father just nodded and squeezed his shoulder. Teachers told him how students had changed. Fewer absences, more participation, more smiles. Nathan stood near the back, overwhelmed, until Principal Bennett brought Harper to the mic. The little girl adjusted the microphone, too short to reach it easily. Hi, she said softly. A few chuckles, a few sniffles. I used to think Santa forgot me, she said. But maybe he was just waiting for the right person to help. She looked back at Nathan. And now, I think he picked the perfect one. The room went quiet. Nathan blinked hard. Afterward, Harper found him near the exit. Did I do okay? She asked. He nodded. You crushed me. Good. She grinned. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. Can I tell you a secret? Always. She leaned close. I want to be like you when I grow up. But I don't want to be rich. I want to be helpful. Nathan crouched down to her level. You already are. She hugged him, tight. And for the first time in his life, Nathan Hale, billionaire, tech mogul, most innovative CEO 5 years running, realized what success actually felt like. But not everyone was inspired. In a downtown boardroom in New York, the Heltech executive team was less than thrilled. He's distracted. He's off-brand. He's throwing personal wealth into a passion project with zero return. The CFO sent him a formal letter requesting a meeting to discuss future leadership expectations. Nathan read it, closed it, said nothing. Instead, he emailed his board. Subject direction for Wardium, not stepping away from the company. I'm building something next to it, something real. You can stay, or you can leave, but I'm not going back to empty meetings about how to increase user engagement on light switches. I'm chasing something that makes kids believe again. 2 board members quit. 5 investors threatened to pull out, but stock went up anyway, because millions of people, millions were watching. Teachers across the country started Harper projects in their own schools, inspired by the model. Community groups raised money locally. Foundations called Nathan asking how to replicate the system. He created an open-source toolkit, posted it for free. You don't need $1 million, he wrote. You need a reason, and a reminder. In Fairview, Harper kept drawing. She and Nathan met once a week. Sometimes they painted, sometimes they just talked. On one of those days in early spring, she gave him a picture. It showed 2 people on a bench under a tree, one big, one small. The small one held a heart in her hands. The big one had his hand on her shoulder. Above them, in blocky kid letters, were the words, "You made me feel seen." Nathan stared at it and cried. Not the tear down your face kind, the soul quiet kind, the kind that changes you. Forever. Nathan kept Harper's drawing on his desk. He placed it between his laptop and an old framed photo of his mother, the only one he had left. She was laughing in the photo, flour on her nose, taken the night they baked cookies from a dollar store mix, and called it Christmas dinner. Every time he looked at Harper's picture, he felt something settle inside him, not peace exactly, but purpose. The Harper Project had now spread to 8 school districts. Anonymous donors stepped forward. Teachers shared stories online. One video of a boy in South Dakota crying as he received his first ever new cut got 6 million views in a week. It caught the attention of lawmakers. A senator from Massachusetts emailed Nathan's assistant personally, asking if he would testify at a congressional hearing on childhood poverty in schools. Your story puts a face to the data. The email read, "It changes how people vote." Nathan didn't hesitate. "Yes," he replied. "Tell me when." The hearing was scheduled for late April. Nathan flew to D.C. 2 days early. He stayed in a modest hotel, ignoring the penthouse his team had booked. He wore a plain suit, no tie. He rehearsed nothing. On the morning of the hearing, just as he finished reviewing his notes, his phone buzzed. Caller ID, Principal Bennett. He picked up instantly. Her voice was shaking. "Nathan, it's Harper." The details blurred together. Harper had collapsed at school, a seizure. The ambulance came quickly. She was now at Fairview Children's Hospital, sedated, undergoing tests. Jenna was there, alone, panicked. Nathan dropped everything. "I'm coming," he said. "I'll be there." By nightfall, he cancelled his testimony, booked the first flight out. His assistant begged him to reconsider. "Your voice matters in that room," she said. "She matters more," he replied. It was dark when he arrived at the hospital. Jenna sat outside the ICU, face pale and raw from crying. When she saw him, she collapsed into his arms. "I thought I'd lose her," she whispered. "She was fine yesterday, drawing, laughing, just fine." "What did the doctors say?" "They're running tests. They think it might be something neurological. They won't know more until tomorrow." Nathan sat beside her, holding her hand, waiting. The hours dragged. At one point, Jenna said softly, "You should have gone to D.C. He shook his head. "This is where I need to be." He was allowed into Harper's room at midnight. She lay, still, hooked to machines that beeped and blinked. A thin tube fed her oxygen. Her doll, Clara, rested beside her on the bed. Nathan sat quietly, barely breathing. Then he leaned forward and whispered, "You're the bravest person I know, and I need you to wake up, because I haven't finished learning from you yet." He stayed, the whole night. By morning, Harper opened her eyes. It wasn't dramatic. No music played. No nurses screamed. She just blinked, once, twice, and looked at him. "You look tired," she said hoarsely. He laughed and wept at the same time. So did Jenna. Doctors ran more tests, diagnosed her with epilepsy, a mild form, manageable, yes, but not life-ending. With proper treatment, she'd be okay. When Nathan told her she'd have to take medicine every day, she just nodded. "Do you have to take medicine too?" she asked. "No," he said. "Then I'm braver than you." He smiled. "Yes, you are." The missed testimony caused a media storm. Some critics called him irresponsible. Others said he staged it for sympathy. But most people got it. When a reporter asked why he skipped the hearing, Nathan answered simply, "I needed to be at the side of the girl who started it all. I don't show up for attention. I show up for people." That quote made front pages. Harper returned to school a week later to a handmade banner that read, "Welcome back, hero." Nathan walked her in. She held his hand the whole time, and for the first time since Christmas, she smiled the way only kids smile, the kind that lights up an entire hallway. By June, the Harper Project was in 41 school districts across 12 states. By September, it hit 100. Nathan worked tirelessly, funding what he could, building partnerships for the rest. The model was simple: no ego, no spotlight, no red tape. He wrote grants, held private meetings with mayors and governors, turned down every talk show. He didn't need to be famous. He needed kids like Harper to feel possible again. On the 1-year anniversary of the first gift Harper received, Nathan returned to Fairview Elementary with a quiet plan. He walked into the school library, now completely renovated through the project. He opened a small wooden box and placed Harper's original drawing inside, protected by glass. Beside it, he left a plaque. "This is where IT started. A girl, a voice, a gift, and someone who finally listened." He didn't tell anyone he was doing it, but the next day, when Harper walked in and saw it, She stood still for a long time. Then she looked up at her mom and said, "I think I helped change the world." Jenna smiled, brushing Harper's hair gently behind her ear. "You didn't just help," she said. "You started it." Harper looked up at the drawing, her little fingers pressed against the glass. "Do you think more kids will draw stuff that goes in boxes?" Jenna nodded. "I think you just gave them permission to believe they can." Across town, Nathan sat alone in his hotel room. The celebration at the school had ended an hour ago. He'd slipped out the back, true to form. But tonight felt different. He couldn't ignore the feeling tightening in his chest. It wasn't restlessness. It was something harder to name. He pulled out his laptop and opened his calendar. The next month was filled with meetings, interviews, and expansion plans. DC again, LA, Denver, a Harvard education panel. He stared at the screen. Then he shut the laptop. The next morning, Nathan called Principal Bennett. "I'm thinking about stepping back." She was quiet for a moment. "Why?" "Because if this project becomes about me, it dies when I stop showing up. And what happens if you leave too early?" "I'm not leaving," he said. "I'm passing the torch, building a board, bringing in real educators, parents, counselors, people who live this every day. And I'll still fund it. I'll advise. But I don't need to be the engine anymore." Bennett didn't argue. She just asked one question. "Are you doing this for them, or to prove to yourself that you can let go?" Nathan didn't have an answer. He flew to Chicago and met with Dev Patel, the literacy non-profit leader who had reached out months earlier. Over coffee in a small cafe, Nathan slid a folder across the table. "This is the full blueprint," he said. "The Harper Project. Infrastructure, funding breakdowns, district templates, volunteer networks, everything." Dev opened it slowly, flipping through page after page. "You're giving this away?" he asked. "I am. You're serious?" Nathan nodded. "It was never mine to keep." Dev looked at him for a long moment. "This is going to outlive you. That's the point." Weeks passed, then months. Nathan faded from headlines, just as he wanted. The Harper Project doubled in size. Again, now in 200 districts. A new advisory board was built. Dev chaired it. So did Principal Bennett. So did Jenna Walker. Nathan declined a seat. "I trust you," he said. "Besides, I've got something else to figure out." He bought a small house in Fairview. Nothing extravagant, just a white one-story cottage with a small yard and a red mailbox. The kind of place a kid could ride a bike past and wave. He moved in quietly, sold his Manhattan penthouse, stepped down as Heltech CEO. The company's stock dipped briefly, then surged. Investors praised his integrity move. Boardrooms spun. It has visionary leadership, but Nathan didn't care about any of that. He was busy planting a garden. One Saturday morning in fall, Harper came over with a box of sidewalk chalk. "Want to help me draw something on your driveway?" she asked. "Sure. What do you want it to say?" Nathan thought, then smiled. "Let's write, 'This matters.'" So they did. Big block letters, pink and green and blue. After they finished, Harper looked up at him. "Do you think people will know what it means?" He shrugged. "The ones who need to, will." She nodded, satisfied, then added a heart under the last word. That night, as the sun dipped behind the trees and the world quieted, Nathan sat on the porch. He didn't check his email. He didn't scroll headlines. He just watched the wind move through the branches and thought, "I was wrong about success. It's not what you build. It's what you leave standing when you're gone." Nathan watched the wind rustle the trees and thought, maybe this is what it means to finally arrive. Not at the top, but at peace. It had been 2 years since the first gift. The Harper Project had become a national network to 307 districts, 17 states, thousands of children who now had books, clothes, meals, mentorship, art supplies, and the one thing too many schools couldn't afford to teach: hope. But with growth came pressure. Some media painted it as the feel-good fix for a broken system. Others said it let the government off the hook. Nathan tried to stay out of it. He kept the same modest life in Fairview, same routines, mornings in the garden, quiet meetings, walks to the library, Sunday dinners with Jenna and Harper. She had grown. 10 now, tall for her age, still drawing, still daydreaming, but sharper, more aware of the world's weight. She asked harder questions. Why do some kids still sleep in cars? Why are school bathrooms broken? Why can't the president just fix it all? Nathan never gave her easy answers, just honest ones. but he knew she was watching closely, and one day, she'd stop asking, she'd start changing things, herself. That moment came sooner than he expected. It began with a budget cut. A new governor slashed state education funding. Districts everywhere were told to tighten up. The Harper Project Board, now run by Dev and others, called an emergency meeting. Nathan listened on the Zoom call. Camera off. "We can't cover the shortfall," Dev said. "We don't have enough reserves to fill the gaps. We'll have to pause the next round of grants," someone else added, "unless we find a way to raise $3 million in 6 weeks. The call ended with no resolution. Nathan didn't say a word. He closed his laptop. And sat in silence. The next day, he met Harper at the school garden she'd helped plant, a space funded by the project. Tomatoes were growing on wire frames. Marigolds bloomed along the fence. She noticed the look on his face. "What's wrong?" He smiled faintly. "Some grown-up things are falling apart. Can I help?" "You already have." She tilted her head. "That's not an answer." Nathan chuckled. "You sound like my old lawyer." Harper didn't laugh. "Tell me the truth," she said. So he did. He told her about the budget crisis, the cuts, the panic. When he finished, she sat quietly. Then she asked, "What if I said something?" "To who?" "Everyone." Nathan took her seriously. Together, with her mum and Principal Bennett, they drafted a letter. Then they recorded a video. Harper sat in her school library. Clara the doll, now faded but still by her side, and looked straight into the camera. "My name is Harper Walker," she said. "When I was 6, someone gave me a gift, a doll, but it wasn't about the toy. It was about someone saying, 'I see you.'" The video was just 2 minutes long. She explained what the Harper Project had done, not with graphs or jargon, but with stories. Her friends getting winter coats, her art teacher getting real paintbrushes, her class finally going on a field trip. And then she said, "If this matters to you, help us keep it going. Not because we're helpless, but because we're worth it." Nathan posted it from a newly created account. Within 24 hours, the video hit 1 million views, then 5. Then 10 donations poured in, not just from billionaires, from bus drivers, nurses, teachers, ex-students. One retired woman sent $18 and a handwritten note. "I wish this existed when my kids were little. God bless Harper." A single dad mailed in a check with a crayon drawing from his daughter that said, "Thank you for helping my school. I like books now." The campaign raised $4.6 million in 3 weeks. Enough, not just to fill the gap, but to expand. Nathan watched from the sidelines. Let Harper do the interviews. Let Dev handle the headlines. But when Harper came home one evening, flushed from her first national interview, she climbed into his lap and whispered, "Did they believe me?" He hugged her. "You reminded the world what most of us forget." By spring, the Harper Project was in all 50 states. Not all were big. Some were single schools, but they were real. They were happening. And Harper had become a symbol no one saw coming. Not a mascot. Not a miracle child. Just a reminder. Every kid is worth showing up for. Nathan was now 47, his hair grayer, his walk slower, but his eyes clearer. He sat on the porch with Jenna one quiet evening in May, watching Harper ride her bike up and down the sidewalk. "Do you ever wonder how different it all could have been?" Jenna asked. "All the time," he said. "Does it scare you?" "Not anymore." She looked at him. "Do you think this is what your mom would have wanted for you?" He looked at the sunset, at the girl pedaling toward the horizon. "I think she'd be proud." And for the first time in his life, Nathan said something out loud he'd only thought before. "I used to think my purpose was to succeed." Jenna waited, but it was actually to remember. 2 years later, Harper stood behind a podium at the National Education Forum in Boston, her voice calm but strong. "My name is Harper Walker. I'm 12 years old, and when I was 6, I thought Santa forgot me." The room of superintendents, policymakers, and non-profit leaders fell silent. But then someone reminded me that being seen is sometimes the best gift of all. She paused. "That gift changed my life, and now, it's changed thousands more." Behind her, on the massive screen, photos flashed from Harper projects across the country. Smiling kids, handwritten thank you notes, libraries rebuilt, classrooms restored. Nathan watched from the front row. He wasn't on the panel. He didn't need to be. This was Harper's moment. He'd already had his. That night, they sat on the roof of the hotel, legs dangling over the edge, wrapped in blankets. I was scared I'd mess up, Harper said. You didn't. What if I get older and people stop listening? They won't, but if they do, remind them why you speak. Harper thought about that. Then she said, when you're gone, I want to keep this going. He turned his head. Gone, you know. When you're old, or tired, or whatever. Nathan smiled. Then we better build something that doesn't need me. So they did. The next year, Nathan created the Harper Foundation, a permanent, independent organization. No corporate ties. Run by educators, students, and community leaders. He transferred all rights, intellectual property, and oversight. He gave up control. Harper was the first youth board member. She helped write the mission statement. We don't fix broken kids, we fix broken systems, and we never forget how it feels to be invisible. Nathan's role faded into the background. No speeches, no photos, just presence. He volunteered at Fairview twice a week reading groups, garden club, the occasional math challenge he always lost. When asked what he did for a living, he'd smile and say, I grow people. And somehow, that felt more real than CEO ever did. One evening, Harper knocked on his door holding an envelope. It was a college acceptance letter. She'd been accepted to a top university, full scholarship, majoring in education policy. Nathan hugged her tighter than he ever had. You're going to build things I never even imagined, he whispered. She pulled back, serious. I already am. Years later, when Nathan passed away quietly in his sleep at 68, there was no monument, no building named after him by his request. His funeral was simple. A tree was planted on the school lawn. No plaque, no ceremony. Just one small sign that read, This matters. And beside it, Harper now, a young woman, standing with a crowd of kids who would never know the full story, told them anyway. One man heard a small girl whisper about Santa. How he didn't try to fix everything. He just showed up and never left. Some stories don't need a twist. They just need someone to listen.